seeking guarantees that a new U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal for Gaza will lead to a permanent end to the war, according to a source close to the group. Israeli officials say the prospects for a deal are high, nearly 21 months into the war. U.S. President Donald Trump announced that Israel had agreed to a 60-day ceasefire framework during which both sides would work towards ending the conflict. Hamas, however, is demanding clear assurances that this ceasefire would not be temporary. Negotiators expect a response from Hamas by Friday, which could pave the way for further talks likely to be held in Egypt or Qatar. The proposal includes the release of 10 living Israeli hostages and the bodies of 18 more in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Of the roughly 50 hostages still held in Gaza, only 20 are believed to be alive. This comes as Israeli strikes across the Strip continue to kill dozens, with at least 59 reported dead today, according to health authorities in the territory. Let's listen in to what a Gazan had to say.
طلبوا ان احنا نزحنا على مواصل قرارة، وين نروح؟ مش عارفين وين نروح. هاي الاحتلال بيقول مناطق آمنة، ما فيش مناطق آمنة. كلها استهدافات، كلها هدف له، وين مكان؟ عشان مش عارفين ايش نتكلم، مش قادرين نتكلم، مش عارفين ايش نحكي. الوضع صعب. يقول لي هدنة الآن، وقف اطلاق نار، تنفيذ الآن أصدق. يقولوا زي ما بدهم. لا يهود، لا أمريكان. الأمريكي إيش هو؟ صهيوني الأمريكي. هو اللي بحط الخطط، هو اللي بدعم الإسلام. ما تصدقش غير لما يقول هدنة، تنفيذ على أرض الواقع.
The war began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas terrorists killed 1,200 people in Israel and took 251 hostages. Israel's military response has since killed more than 57,000 people in Gaza, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, and displaced most of the population there. Israel insists it will not end the war, while Hamas remains armed and in control of Gaza. Hamas, though weakened, says it will not surrender its weapons, but it's open to releasing all remaining hostages if the war ends. Now we're joined back again with Joshua Barnes. He's an anchor and correspondent at NewsX World. Joshua, what more can you tell us about the situation that's unfolding in Gaza in terms of ceasefire?
Yes, so Suma, well, this situation isn't a new one. Several ceasefire proposals, an additional ceasefire proposal also from the US in recent months has come in. There is a slight hope of optimism here, though. Although either side, both Israel and Hamas, aren't aligned on some areas, previous deals have been instantly rejected by Hamas. This 60-day ceasefire proposal that Donald Trump has said is the last chance for a ceasefire deal has been mulled over by Hamas, and we are expecting an official response from them potentially within the next 24 hours or so. But there is a clear point of contention here, and that is disarmament of Hamas. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he re-engaged properly after that initial ceasefire ended its first stage and a second phase wasn't able to be agreed upon, Benjamin Netanyahu set out his stance and made it clear that his operation will continue until all hostages dead and alive were returned. Hamas was disbanded but also disarmed, which is something the group have spoken out against, though the opportunity for hostages to be returned would be welcomed by many, if not all, living in Israel. Families of those with loved ones dead and alive being held captive by Hamas have continued in their calls for an end to the current situation. It is important to understand, though, that there is still a difference as well in the length of ceasefire. Hamas are looking for a total end to the war, a full withdrawal of Israeli troops. This 60-day ceasefire deal that has been brokered by the United States does not include that. So, as you've mentioned already, there may be some further negotiations. Mediating nations, including the US, Jordan, Qatar, could play a vital role in getting this deal over the line. The consensus from Donald Trump's rhetoric, though, He does often change his rhetoric on certain issues. His has been clear, this is the last deal that Hamas have on the table, otherwise the military action will continue. The question about the safeness of the hostages is something that is also there to be looked at, but a situation where there is an impasse and a potential light at the end of the tunnel, but clear sticking points still need to be overcome.
And Joshua, building on this, are there other countries that can maybe help negotiate the ceasefire deal?
I listed the US, Jordan and Qatar, Egypt as well, have been involved in discussions, assisting people within Gaza as well, and looking at aid, different plans that have been proposed by Muslim nations. I think at the moment it's not a situation of other countries necessarily coming in and getting clearly involved. This to me looks like two sides which really need to find an area of compromise that both sides can be somewhat happy with. But while we talk about all of this diplomacy, it is of course vitally important to remember the humanitarian aspect within this. Hostages still being held, something which in war, once the dead are there, dead hostages being held for an extended period of time is very rare in warfare, and the devastating impact that has had on the people of Israel, also the humanitarian situation in Gaza. We spoke a short while ago about the issue around aid. Healthcare is a huge problem as well. Operating hospitals are at a minimum. Many have been destroyed in fighting. Some operating on a limited capacity, but supplies are also dwindling. So a clear effort going into trying to resolve this issue, but the humanitarian situation and the tragedy on both sides of this conflict at play.
And Joshua, what more can you tell us about the numbers and the difference of numbers with this war continuing for almost more than 2 years now, or almost 2 years now, and the 1,200 people that were initially killed compared to 57,000 people that's been killed according to the health ministry in Gaza?
Yes, well, Asuma, of course the two numbers are vastly different, and there is calls from across the globe looking at those figures. The situation, again, it's a very contentious one, and it's very difficult to find common ground amongst both sides. Israel's stance is very much, we were attacked, a terrorist attack, an atrocious attack that took place on the 7th of October 2023, civilians going about their normal day, people at a music festival being gunned down, hostages taken, deaths reported. Israel saw that as an act of war and have acted proportionately in their view, but that isn't shared by some across the world. There is also a conversation around the figures of those that have been killed within Gaza. The local official number, as you mentioned, around 57,000, but the real number could be much higher. Experts and NGOs, we heard earlier as well, the UN talking about a death toll potentially over 200,000. It's a tragic situation. It's a tragedy on a humanitarian aspect, the sheer loss of life, but Israel are looking at their hostages, they're looking at the attack that has happened. I think the calls that we've had in from world leaders are looking at the current situation in Gaza and looking at the humanitarian crisis being reported. All death is tragic, every death on either side, of course, with loved ones struggling and suffering equally.